I want to concentrate on my superpower. And if there's something that needs to be done that I either can't do or don't want to do, or my time is more valuable doing something else, I'm going to partner with somebody who excels in what I need. If I can't partner with, I'll hire. I try to partner before I like hire it to somebody, but find somebody who like complements your skill set.
Hello, hello. Ginny Bolling here with Pivotal REI, the Pivotal Real Estate Investing podcast brought to you by Pivotal Real Estate Investments. And I have Jason Williams with us today. Jason, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Ooh, appreciate it. We've been chatting as usual before we actually get talking and can see so well how you have become a professional underwriter. They started out with an engineering background, and those numbers tend to just go like that. Those numbers just lead right into doing underwriting in so many ways, don't they?
Yeah.
But that's excellent. That means you're exacting. That means you have not only a keen awareness of the use of numbers, but the impact and whatnot. So that's huge. And so, why don't you talk a little bit about your journey to this place where you're at now?
So yeah, I'm a full-time real estate investor right now. But I didn't start out that way. I got into real estate over 20 years ago. Um, Bought my first single family home in 2003 when I was in grad school. And I earned my PhD in chemical engineering, got my first job, and started working as an R&D engineer. Did that for 15-ish years. All the while, I still had that first house that I bought back in grad school. I rented it out. I've cashed out, refied it a few times, let me buy more single family homes. And then in 2017, I went to an investment, I guess, conference or seminar or something in DFW or Dallas Fort Worth area, and I met Joe Fairless. And Joe Fairless introduced me to apartment syndication and buying large apartment complexes using other people's monies. So when I learned that, that was like a game changer for me because then I didn't have to save up 25% down payment every time I was going to buy a house. And that was then you go buy a house and you lose all of that. And then you have to start saving up all over again. Um, with apartment syndication, you pull in investors and you can use their money to buy larger cash flowing assets as well. So that's what I discovered in 2017. And so since then, I've really been concentrating on large multifamily properties. And as an R&D engineer, I was still an R&D engineer at that time. I was an R&D engineer when I bought my first property, my first multifamily property. And as an R&D engineer, I would have to make systems for the lab tech to create and crunch numbers, gather the data, and then somehow manage to get the salespeople to understand what that was and how to sell what we were building. And so I created systems so that the lab tech can do it, enter some data, punch a few numbers, and voila, the salesman can do what he needed to do. So I took that system building into underwriting. So now I have a system where I can upload a OM, a T12, and a rent roll, and bam, it does all of your numbers for you. You can go in and tweak some your loan parameters and stuff like that, but 90% of it is done for you. And I know a lot of people would and including myself would spend hours just trying to import a T12 or import a rent roll, and then it's like, all right, now we have to start plugging in the numbers to make sure things work. And so I was trying to get the tedium out of underwriting so that anybody can do it. And so that's what I've been working on lately. So yeah, that's pretty much my story in a nutshell. So
So you've not only, if I recap a bit, I think you've underwritten for all different sizes of for clients as
so
a
so yeah, So I do have a consulting firm where or business where I help people underwrite. I've helped them underwrite RV parks, self storage, mobile home communities, condo conversions. I've created custom models for people. And yeah, I do help people. People come to me saying, "Hey, can you look at these numbers? I just want to make sure these assumptions are right." Or they want to come in and say, "Hey, can you run these through your model because I think my model might be broken?" Or can you go through my model and see if it's broken and tell me how to fix it? Because really what I do sometimes is it's like a choose your own adventure. I go through every cell, look at every formula, click on it, and I go, oh, it goes to this tab over here, J7, multiplied by over here on this tab, F42, and I just make sure everything is working right. It is tedious doing that. That's why I was getting away and building my own thing, get away from Excel. But I can help people with their underwriting as well. So
That's a service you offer, but you also have something more exciting coming, right? You're
yeah,
doing app.
my web app is in beta version right now. So if you want to sign up to be a beta tester, you can go to my website at ironcladunderwriting.com/beta tester, all one word. And right now you can sign up for free. I'm looking for all the feedback I can get. Um, I'm constantly putting out updates on it, making it more user friendly, making it more useful. Um, every time I think about something, I just start implementing it. I use AI to parse all the information so that you can just upload the files and all the information comes out for you. That way, you don't have to do anything manually. You can do it manually if you want, but you don't have to.
This day and age, more and more, yeah, as AI gets more and more reliable,
Yeah.
then we are that. So that's terrific. There's a lot of people that really, need that. You were talking about, well, your takeaway. What do you want your takeaway for the listener to be?
So my takeaway is I have a couple of them. One of my biggest ones and my like center my whole business around it is Who Not How, and it's a book by Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy. They're really good authors. They have several books, but the Who Not How principle is I want to concentrate on my superpower, and if there's something that needs to be done that I either can't do or don't want to do, or my time is more valuable doing something else, I'm going to partner with somebody who excels in what I need. If I can't partner with, I'll hire. I try to partner before I like hire it to somebody, but find somebody who like complements your skill set so they do what you don't want to do, and then you can concentrate on your superpower, because when you concentrate on your superpower actually gets stronger versus you doing things you don't want to do and then you just become like mediocre all around. So
And that's how they used to teach us when we were younger. Work on your weakness, right? Work
yeah,
on your
yeah, that was one thing that when I had my W-2 job is they wanted me to work on my weaknesses. And I'm thinking to myself, why would I want to work on my weaknesses when I can be working on my superpower and do what you actually hired me to do and not worry about conforming to something else that you just want everybody to mold into? It's like, that doesn't work that way. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think it's really changed in a lot of business environments. Thank goodness, right?
yeah.
So super. Well, so you've got this app you're working on. People can sign up on the beta test. Let's talk a little bit about underwriting. And we'll talk like it's going to be a syndication. Okay, so you've got say
Mhm.
200. So, uh, so right at the top after the gross income, most controversial thing is vacancy and collection loss, right?
Yep.
Um, so yeah, how do you address that usually?
So going back to the who not how part is on all the properties that I'm like seriously underwriting that I'm intentionally to buy, I am getting a third party to verify my numbers. So yeah, I might put in like a 10% vacancy or something and then just put in like blanket 1% loss to lease, 1%. bad debt, stuff like that. But I will get like a property manager who will be physically there on site running the asset to give me a budget. And then I'll go over the budget with them back and forth to figure out, hey, is this doable? Is this reasonable? And how are you going to implement this business plan to get these numbers? And so we do a lot of back and forth, and so maybe they'll say, well, we always do 8% or 7% vacancy. It's like, all right, let's think about this. We're buying it at 85%, and you're budgeting for 8% right off the bat, or 75% occupied. You're budgeting for 92% occupied. We have to bridge that gap somehow. And that's there's a lot of back and forth, but there's some still they have a lot of feedback in it because they're the ones going to be running the asset. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
I get too long winded in that.
Oh, no, that's true. That's so true. So, that's one reason also we are very particular about getting a property management company that knows that area really well.
Yep.
And I think that's important. That in that house, yep. And so then we climb on down, we get to the other income we won't even talk about, but to get down into like the payroll is another very, very controversial one as far as what you should could plug on those and whether it's salaries, you've almost always got salaries then for
Mm-hmm.
something. It's
Yeah.
a great.
So when it comes to payroll, um, if you have on-site staff, you're going to be paying them the same salary if you have a 60 unit property, or if you have maybe 120 150 units. When you get over 150, you might have to bring in like an assistant manager or something like that. You might have to bring in an extra maintenance guy, but for typically 60 to 150, you can get by with one office manager and one maintenance guy. You're paying them the same salary whether you have 60 or 150. So if you're looking at price per door, you might be paying 1,200 a door in salaries for at the 60 unit price point, but you might be paying them 600 a door at the 120 150 unit price. And so this was actually a big deal with one of my lenders. Is like, well, why is your payroll so high? It's like, what do you mean it's typical? It's like, well, no, you're paying 1,200 a door for it, and it should be at max like 800, maybe 1,000. It's like, well, we have the same number of staff there. We can't just put them part-time or charge or pay them based on the number of units you have. So that was eye-opening for the lender, even though I think they should have known better.
Yeah, well, and people relate to it different ways, I think. Sometimes it's a percent of income and but yeah, a lot of people translate it to the per door and some don't, right? So they
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. And that's not even your property management fee, which is typically a percent of like your effective gross income. Um and that should be anywhere from like 3 to 4%. If you're getting up into like 5 to 10%, you probably have like a residential manager, and you shouldn't be having on-site staff if you get that high. So if you do, you may need a new manager.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah. And what about bonuses for leasing, things like that? Where do you put that?
So that all that is part of the payroll. And again, like I said, you want third party verification. So you should be going off of the budget that the property manager will be giving you, and that should include the payroll. And then if the budget is detailed enough, they'll break it down into like your office salary, your maintenance guy hourly, with overtime, benefits, if they have insurance or 401k, um, bonuses. Typically, they'll have like however many or whatever the occupancy is. If they're like 90% for so long, they get one bonus. If they're 95, they get another bonus. They might get $50 bonus for every new lease or something like that, and 50 for a release or something. So all of that is usually included in like the payroll bucket, but then you can go in and detail it out if you need to.
And your app will be able to handle that?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
If you need to get that granular, yes, it can. Generally, I would probably not go that deep, but it can if you need to. So,
Are you going to use like an expense ratio on that for the most part?
I do look at the expense ratio, and if it's too high, you will get flagged. Say, hey, this expense ratio is too high. This is not an all bills paid property, so you should be sitting in the 50 to 60 tops. Um, if it's all bills paid, you can get a little bit higher than that, but it will flag it if it's too high.
Good, good.
Hmm.
All right. Sounds like you have some really good parts to that. That's awesome. And I understand your wife is also in the business. Is that right?
Yeah, my wife, Angel Williams, she's in the business. She's has her own thing going. She's got a podcast. She holds her own meetup every Monday, rain or shine, holiday. I think last year Monday was on Christmas and New Year's, and so she held her meetup. She's been doing it every Monday since, well, for the last 5 or 6 years now. So,
For vacation. Yep. All right. Well, so what else should we talk about before we start wrapping things up?
oh, what do you want to talk about?
Well, so you're in Texas. That's a tricky state for me because you're a non-disclosure state. I'm in the Florida sunshine where everything's public record, right?
Yep.
Being a
So,
former appraiser, I want to know for sure what people paid, right? So how do people handle that in Texas?
so ban non-disclosure is beneficial in the taxes because you might have a $5 million property, but they're charging you taxes for $3 million value. If they found out what you paid, they will charge taxes at the $5 million point. Other states that do that, they typically like have like a valuation percentage versus like a full 100%. They might charge you like 40% of the value or something, but it's disclosed. So ultimately, it kind of works out the same way. Um, but if they did find out, they would charge you like the full millage rate. That's for taxes. For comps, for cap rates, it's a little bit trickier. You're not going to know what they paid down the street for the property unless you have insider knowledge. And being in this space, and what I harp on my students is you have to know everything about your market. Concentrate on a single market, know everything about it, know who the owners are, know who all the property managers are. That way, if things happen, I mean, there's a lot of times I've talked to other owners on the phone, say, hey, we got this situation, or hey, this property manager's leaving town. What are you going to do? Do you have one? Because we're still looking for one. We've talked to other owners before, and it's actually a small world when you get into the space. So there's a good chance you might already know who an owner is on the property that's down the street from the one you're looking at. So if you have those kind of relationships, you can start figuring out what people are paying or what people are selling at, and then that can help with your cap rate estimation, stuff like that. Um, Typically you would know, all right, what's your occupancy, and you can go on apartments.com and you can figure out what their rents are specifically at what occupancy, so you can estimate what their NOI is. You know what the value is, and you can learn the cap rates that way.
So of course we all know there's paid services like CoStar. Thank you for bringing up the cap rate.
so
That
so
was
CoStar, I and the non-disclosure state like this, I've seen CoStar completely goof. They're completely wrong. But I mean that they're like the gold standard, and so that's what people go off of. Even though I know for a fact, I know what a property sold for, and CoStar got it completely wrong. So
Yeah, I've seen a couple of them too. So interestingly, so I belong to our local apartment association, and I've gone to the state and national levels and tuning in, and um, got introduced to a company called ALN. Have you ever heard of them?
I think so. I don't know too much about them though.
I can't remember if ALN stands for something in particular. It probably does, like apartment something, but all they do is multifamily. So, and the
Uh,
times that I have done evaluations in Texas, a few times I got pretty stumped and had to call my appraiser friends, right? And say, hey, what's going on? And we got talking. And a lot of them will tell me that ALN is their Bible for all practical purposes because they do
okay,
do a level of cooperation in
okay.
Texas. So yeah, that's I've had them come on and interview them a couple times on the podcast, and you might want to reach out, find out what I don't know what.
I'll definitely look them up. So
Yeah, but yeah, cap rates are a big deal, and the terminal cap rate, right? The exit cap. What do you
like
do? What do you advise?
so so I don't look at the cap rate going in necessarily. You always have like a growth rate for your cap rate expansion, maybe 10 bips, 20 bips per year. That's 20 basis points. Where 100 basis points is 1%. You have that expansion. So if you buy at a 5% cap rate after 5 years at 10 bips, you're going to be selling at roughly 5.5%. That is easy numbers that you can do that in your head. But if you're buying like a heavy value add where you may be buying it for the pro forma versus a T12, the T12 might be dismal, but you know it's on its way and it could be made whole. This is sort of like speculation, but it's still doable. It's possible and people still do it. You might be buying it at like a 2 or 3% cap, knowing you're going to be adding value, leasing it up, getting higher rents, and then your year one is going to be completely different than the T12. If you do that though, and you buy it at a 2-3% cap rate, and you only add in like 10 or 20 basis points per year at the exit, your calculation is going to be maybe 3.5%. And that is going to be probably way too low for that market if you're actually doing that. And so your market might be at like a 6 or 7%. And so what I typically do is I'll put in a minimum, just say, hey, I don't want to go estimate less than 5 or less than a 6% cap rate on exit. And so it'll do at least the or at most the minimum that I'm at versus the 3.5. That way you get a little bit cushion in your numbers. And if it still can't pencil at a 6 or 7 cap, then maybe you need to walk away. If you need it to exit at the 3.5 and it's not like a class A and a class A neighborhood, that's probably not going to happen. But one thing about my app is I do sensitivity studies, and so you can see what different cap rates will look like on exit. And so it's like, oh, if we're at a 3% cap exit cap, all your returns are going to look stellar. If you're at a 7 or 8, does it still make sense? And is it worth moving forward if it's that high? So but
Good.
on the flip side, with our current situation, I have started seeing cap rates start coming down, but I never estimate a cap rate less than what I buy it for.
I'm with you. I do see it though out there. There's people out there projecting regularly for lesser. But anyway, so tell us one more time what your takeaway is, and then we'll roll right into the pivotal stuff.
So one, I like who not how principle. Do it for everything. Third parties on verification on all your numbers you're going to be underwriting. If you're going to be investing millions, of dollars, if not tens or hundreds of millions of dollars into something, you want to make sure your numbers are accurate. But also, another thing I've discovered along the way is never take advice from someone who's not doing what you want to do or where you want to be. So I always have a mentor and I listen to them. I pay them. I use their advice, but I'm not going to take advice from one of the shop workers at my W-2 who's telling me I should sell all my properties and go on vacation or go to Cancun or something with them. So,
Good for you. Right. Okay. So, and as we ask everybody, is there a pivotal person or event that brought you to where you are today or is pushing you towards some certain goal?
so I have multiple pivotal people. And I think that's another thing. And then that goes with the whole advice thing is I look for the people who give good advice. And so those are like the pivotal people to me. But I think my biggest one would be my dad. He got me into real estate when I was still in high school. Um, but my wife Angel, we've been working together. I mean, since we've been married, before we were even married on real estate, and we kind of are each pushing each other further. I also have business coaches and mentors as well, but I think my dad and Angel right now are the pivotal people.
Right. So as I explained to everyone, we have this local legends and pivotal people series. So now either I can call Angel and tell her you nominated her, or you can tell her. And if she comes on the show, she gets promoted as a pivotal person. She goes on our newsletter forever as a pivotal person, and she gets a lapel pin that says she's a pivotal. Kind of fun, it really is. We like
Yeah,
to try to recognize people that really are changing things out there. So thank you
that's
very much.
cool.
Well, why don't you
Okay.
tell people how they can reach you?
So, everything is on my website, ironcladunderwriting.com. I have a podcast. You can get it through there. I think it's ironcladunderwriting.com/podcast. I have free resources there. Um, you can sign up for the beta tester on that website. If you need to get a hold of me, you can go to hold me there or LinkedIn. I'm big on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. All of it's ironcladunderwriting.com. So my LinkedIn, I think it's my name, Jason Williams, PhD. So
Very good. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it. We'll put all that contact information in the show notes.